All right, Mr. Gheorghiu. So here we have a game against Smyslov.
We have against Smyslov, played in Moscow in 71. It was a very strong tournament, played in Moscow, the Alekhine Memorial. And I had the opportunity to meet Grandmaster Smyslov over the board in one of his favorite variations. I mean, he liked to play this with white. I mean, this so-called Marozzi setting, for white. It's some kind of Sicilian. By playing first c4, I mean, you can arrive in an e4 position by playing c4 first move. So c4, c5, knight f3, g6, d4. C takes that. Now black had the possibility to have another kind of position by playing himself bishop g7 first instead of taking in d4, I mean, with the knight in f3, put back please, with the knight in f3 and the pawn in c5. Yes, instead of taking in d4 immediately, bishop g7. And now after bishop g7, e4, queen a5 check is also very, very interesting game, very interesting position, but here, very complicated. No. E4, white plays e4. E4.
Yes.
And now queen a5 check. This is a little bit unusual, but gives a very interesting game. And now if white plays, for instance, bishop d2, like Grandmaster Larsen played once against me, after bishop d2, bishop b6, the game is completely even. I mean, you trade many pieces on d4, and so, black equalizes without problems. After queen b6,
queen b6,
bishop c3, you attack twice in d4 and b2, bishop c3, and now you can take in d4. And when you take in d4, he takes with the pawn, yes. He takes himself with the bishop. You trade the bishop in d4. Now he has to take with the queen. Otherwise, he loses the pawn in b2. You trade in d4 also. Now, without queens, you play finally here knight c6, knight b5, king f8, and black has a very, very nice game without any problem. King f8, king f8. F8, yes. The king goes to g7, and the black has no problem at all. I played this many times against Larsen, Anderson, and many other very strong grandmasters, and black is okay. Very, very nice game. But okay, this is a possibility. And coming back to our game, I took immediately in d4. Okay, now I took in d4, and now we have a nice, we have a normal position from Sicilian, Knight d4, knight c6, e4, knight f6, knight c3, takes, d6. Okay. d6, bishop e2, bishop g7, everything is theory until now. Castle. Okay, bishop e3. This is the move that Smyslov liked very much, and he played in a lot of games with some success, I must say. It's not so clear. White, it seems, is a little bit unusual with the queen to d4 and then back to e3, but white has a very clear idea. He wants to put the bishop in d2, and later on the rook b1 and move the pawn in b4 and so on, the rook f to c1, and has control of the central squares and better position. This is the idea for white. Okay, so now after queen e3, bishop d7, rook b1, and now a small surprise, queen b6. That equalizes immediately. Why? Because if white takes now in b6 and plays bishop e3, takes. He has to take in b6 if he wants something,
Yes.
Or if not, he moves the queen away, like in our game,
Yeah.
But if he takes in b6, you take, and now after bishop e3, black has a very clear way to have a normal game after bishop c6 first, and now he forces you to play f3 because you don't give the central pawn, and after knight d7 is a very normal position. Black is all right, Yeah, this is the first possibility. The second possibility is to let you take in b6. Now, instead of bishop e6, you can play with black rook fc8, and after bishop takes in b6, now you move the bishop to e6. You attack the pawn from c4, and if he plays the wrong, a mistake, a big mistake, b3. After knight d7, white is lost.
We have
Two
to attack.
pieces are under attack and completely winning for black, So black equalizes without any problem, it seems, after queen b6. Okay, if he doesn't want to take to b6, he has to play like in our game. He moves away the queen, queen g3. But now black has a normal position and very active. He did everything all right. I mean, has a very good position after the opening immediately. And he tries to seize the initiative if possible, So plays immediately rook fc8, no?
Yes.
It was in our game, no?
Yes.
So finally he has to pay attention. I mean, it's not so clear. Black wants to have more than equality if possible, And after rook fc8, all his pieces are very well placed and tries to attack some pawns, in c4, in e4 later on. And we'll see what happens. White has to play very carefully and finds very strong moves. To rook fc1 is okay. Bishop e6. Now the c4 pawn is 3 times under attack. So now he has to move something. And he finds a very strong move, queen h4. I had the impression black is clearly better here before queen h4. But after queen h4 it's very unclear. Why? Because now if black takes in c4.
Yes.
Yeah. Now you can take in c4. Yeah. And if excuse me.
Yes.
After bishop takes c4, black has to try a good move against a3. a3 is a very strong possibility, And now you have to move away the queen, only in b3 or in a5. And the position is very unclear, because now, for instance, after bishop d1, you lose the queen. You see? The queen is lost.
Yeah.
You have no place for the queen. So it's very unclear. You have to be very careful. You can't take immediately in c4. You have to be very careful. So if you don't have the answer bishop takes c4, the position is more or less balanced, like this. It's very unclear. So you have to find a good move. So the best move in our game was, what did I play there? a6, yeah. You keep the same ideas with black, and maybe later on you try to take a pawn, if possible, Again, white has to react very quickly, and he moved a3 himself, So now after queen a5, again he found a good move, b4, very normal. Again, if you take in a3, it seems very good to take the pawn, no? But if you take in a3, after rook c2, you are in very big danger to lose the queen again. The threat is simply bishop c1, and the queen has no place.
Yeah.
You see, you have to be very careful, and unfortunately, you have to go back with the queen to d8. And if you go back to d8, the game is more or less even, but with some initiative for white already. White has a small edge, Now you have to be careful with black, So c5 is a good move again. He opens the position for his pieces, And now he takes with the pawn in c5. If he takes with the bishop, the game is even. But when he takes with the pawn, you have to be careful, because now the threat is clear. He wants to take the pawn from b7. You have to be very careful.
Here, and also this square is available.
Well, it's a little bit unpleasant for black already, So now you have to try to find the counter play to find the good possibility to have an even game somehow, Okay, queen a5 is very strong, and now bishop f3, again, very strong. Sante. And after bishop f3, the threat is clear. He wants to play e5. If he has time to play e5, the game is very unpleasant for black, if not lost. I mean, because he threatens to take immediately with the bishop in b7, and it's a fantastic threat,
Yes.
So what to do? So after bishop f3, knight d7 is very good, but now you see two black pawns are under attack. Of course, you attack the knight from c3. Has to be careful himself, So he has to move something. He has to move the knight. Okay, and he moves the move which is very active, knight d5. Now you are forced to give the bishop from e6. You have to take the knight, So you take the knight. He takes. And now again has two bishops. And fortunately for black has, move by move. And now the game is even, and we'll see why. After knight takes c5. Now white has to do something, and if he wants to play for a win, he has to take in e7, because if he takes, for instance, in c5 with the bishop, black is a little bit better afterwards. I mean, taking with the rook in c5, and the pawn from a3 is attacked. If I can take the pawn from a3, it's okay for black. I can also take with the rook, with the queen in, with the rook in c5, and he has to be careful not to have a bad endgame after rook takes c1 and queen takes a3. Everything comes with tempo, So the game is more or less even, but black is okay. I mean, it's no problem. So he took with the queen in e7. Now again, you have to find a very good move, because he has two bishops, and if he has time, if he has time for one move to play d6, the game is very unpleasant for black. Again, the deep pawn is very dangerous, and you have some trouble with black.
And he's also supported by these bishops.
Yes, I tell you, if white has time to play d6, it's dangerous, very dangerous. Yeah. So okay, bishop f8 is very strong move, queen f6, and now I played knight d7. Again, very strong move. After knight d7, black wants to play somehow, if possible, b5, but better than b5. The idea is to attack immediately in a3 and have time to play knight e5. And, eliminate the bishop from f3. If you can do it, it's okay for
to eliminate the bishop from here?
The bishop from f3.
Okay.
And now he played queen a1 and proposed draw, and we agreed to a draw because everything will be forced now. The idea is to play like this. Rook takes c1 check. We could continue like this. Rook takes c1, rook takes c1, queen takes a3. He has to take, bishop takes, and rook c7. Okay. White has to play very active because he is pawn down. And after rook c7, knight e5, everything is all right. I mean, the game is completely even. If he takes back the pawn, rook takes b7, black has time to take in f3 with check, takes in f3, and now a5 or rook d8, and the game is completely even. Yeah, there's no problem here. But the game was very sharp, as you could see, Every move. It was move by move, He found queen. After queen h4, everything was almost forced, but black has to react very, very well, because otherwise the game was a little bit dangerous.
So he was one tempo away from...
I don't know. I had some chances maybe before, a little bit in the first part of the game, after queen a5, and after queen h4, white has a small edge, and you have to defend very well to keep equality, afterwards. But the game anyway was very interesting and very, very instructive, for both players. It was no surprise, because Smyslov was a very strong player. He was world champion and so on. He took away the title from Botvinnik later on. Some years later, Botvinnik recaptured the title, from Smyslov, and so on. Both of them in the chess history as two very strong players.
All right.
So very interesting game anyway.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
You are.